I started to have suspicions over the years, but this is just the nail in the coffin. Game Freak doesn't care about Pokemon anymore.
I've never been so happy to be so wrong. When they said the next game in the series was gonna be this, I was insanely skeptical. I had zero faith for Legends, especially since they showed footage too early. Those choppy 5 FPS animations 2 feet in front of you don't happen in the final game, thank God. I was surprised by the frame rate, actually. I expected it to run horribly, but it's mostly 30 FPS. Pokemon Legends Arceus has been the most fun I've had about a Pokemon game in like 10 years, which is kinda sad when you start to think about it. It's not just me either, I haven't seen a Pokemon game so universally liked since Heart Gold Soul Silver, which is also kinda sad when you start to think about it. And there's a reason for that. This game is fun, like really fun. If you wanted a gamer to explore the wilderness and catch a trained Pokemon, this is it, for the most part at least. It's not perfect, but it brings so many new ideas to the series and actually fleshes them out enough to be a great time. It doesn't feel like some proof of concept. This is an actual finished video game. Kinda depressing that I even have to clarify this, but it's a good video game that blessed us with Big Bidoof. This isn't a review, but it's still scripted, just so that I'm not rambling over random garbage or anything. But I'm talking about anything I feel like talking about, so if you haven't finished the post-game yet and don't want spoiled, get out now. So this is a big boy Pokemon game, and it almost feels like the polar opposite of everything Pokemon's been lately, in a good way. Instead of linear routes and an easy path to the end, Legends has you explore open areas and you survey Pokemon instead of training them, which gives a surprising amount to do. This place isn't as barren as you'd expect it to be, and mainly because they finally figured out how to make catching Pokemon fun, at least to me. I never really found myself catching everything I see, because if I wasn't going to use it, then what's the point? But they actually go back to how it was in Gen 1 and give you periodic rewards for catching Pokemon filling out the Pokedex, which isn't just catch everything. There's actual research tasks to do beyond just catching them, most of which is stuff you do anyway, and if you wouldn't, it gives you a good reminder of what your options are, like how you can throw berries to lure them into standing in a certain spot, then throw a Pokeball at the back of their head. That back attack animation never gets old either, it's super satisfying to pull off. You can catch Pokemon outside of battle by not being noticed by them and just throw a ball. And that back attack ups the catch rate, which gives a nice stealth element when hunting them down. Pokemon has always had a natural stealth element with avoiding trainers, and this feels like an extension to that. It's a really cool parallel, too. Pokemon hid in the tall grass to hide from people, but they once roam free, with people hiding in the tall grass instead. That ends up leading into a weird survival element that somehow works. There's crafting, for one. It's really basic, but it ends up making a lot of random stuff you find actually useful to save on cash, which is hard to come by this time, especially with how expensive expanding your inventory gets. I was constantly starved for money because it feels used for something other than buying more potions. This isn't Gen 1 limited inventory though. There's a storage box that has unlimited space as far as I can tell. It's just that there's a limited number of item types for stuff that you can bring with you. I actually really liked it. It makes you think about what you want to bring on your next excursion, and it feels good to drop off a haul of the item box. Because Legends is actually challenging for once. Obviously, the game's not hard or anything, but it's not a cakewalk either, which is all I'm asking for. You die really quickly in this game. I don't know what they changed, but everything just seems stronger than before. Not totally sure how Nuzlocke would work in this game, but they're gonna be brutal. I rarely had a party wipe, but my Pokemon are feigning constantly. And despite the fact that the experience share is always turned on, it's hard to get over level just playing normally. I still let you have the option to turn it off completely, but it's finally a non-issue. Although you can still make the game stupid easy if you want to. All it really takes is for you to go out of your way to explore and catch a few high-level alphas. The game just snaps in two difficulty-wise. But if you don't catch them, alphas are a pretty fun challenge. Basically being these super high-level encounters that are also huge in size. And they will absolutely destroy you if you're not prepared. Like, I got my ass kicked trying to catch a bee barrel. A freaking bee barrel! But if you do manage to catch them, they keep their enormous size, which is just hilarious. Some mad lad at Game Freak said, "Big Bidoof," and this masterpiece of a specimen was born. They know special moves they wouldn't normally know and start with better EVs too. So they're absolutely worth catching aside from being such a high level. Although you can do all this stuff with standard Pokemon, it's just a lot grindier to get the EVs up. Oh yeah, they just have a move tutor in town that effectively replaces TMs. And you can relearn moves whenever outside of battle, giving you way more flexibility than you had before. I really liked that, but I didn't take advantage of it nearly as much as I should have. And speaking of fights, there's no transition into a battle scene. It's like Chrono Trigger where it takes place right when the fight started. You also choose when to start fights by literally throwing your Pokemon at it. Even after the fight starts, you can still move around and look at the fight from different angles. I didn't really do that too much, but it's really handy when you know you're gonna win so you can just continue on with your day. It makes the game flow so much better. There's been a bit of an overhaul to the battle system too. Along with learning moves, moves can also be mastered, which lets you use a strong or agile version of it. And it usually messes with the turn order, which I'm just gonna call priority because I don't know what else to call it. Agile style is weaker, but increase your priority makes it more likely to give you another turn. Strong style does more damage, but decrease your priority and gives the opponent another turn. Some moves have this baked in too, like quick attack would increase your priority, but hyper beam would reduce it. It adds a lot more strategy to fights. If I needed a little more damage, I could bullet punch or shadow sneak and then follow up with a strong style attack. Or I could use an agile status move and still get a chance to take advantage of it. The game has a lot more on the fly thinking like this. You can't just spam type advantages and expect to come out unscathed. There's no held items or abilities either, which I ended up minding way less than I thought I would. And the lack of those options ironically makes the game harder. There's less pre-fight planning and more in-the-moment decisions, which made the battles feel faster, along with the animations and flow being quicker anyway. The infrequency of trainer fights get rid of any possible distractions while exploring, which helped a lot for that immersion. There still are trainer fights, but they're really infrequent, which makes sense. This place is dangerous and mostly unexplored. There aren't too many people around aside from the occasional settlement or camp. They just kinda say, you will die out here, get used to it. I oddly enjoyed this story too. It's not deep or anything, but just cohesive, which is a compliment, I swear. God isekais Dawn or Lucas into this world, and they just deal with being a Pokemon researcher. It's like Mystery Dungeon, but not. Between this and being able to recollect other players' lost items, it's nice to see them taking some slight inspiration from spin-offs. You're brought in to be a surveyor because you're oddly good at throwing Pokeballs. That's pretty much the only reason why. You just fall out of a time rift and they're like, pass this simple trial or we will throw you out and you will literally die. God is also making these super powerful Lord Pokemon that are threatening everyone's safety in each area, so you have to take care of those guys too. And I was surprised to see fights that you don't traditionally fight. You throw bombs at them to calm them down. There's usually some kind of stun period for you to throw in one of your own Pokemon or further stun them to do more damage, but it's otherwise really different from every other fight in the series. It's pretty much the only time you can take advantage of the dodge roll that you can do. And you'll need it because the later ones border on bullet hell. It took me like 20 tries to beat Avalugg. So yeah, I basically go from one area to summon the Lord and move on to the next. It's pretty basic, but it works. You also get a new ride Pokemon along the way. It's kind of how it was in Sun and Moon, but they give you a new method of traversal. They don't really act like HMs per se, except Basculesian, which is literally Surf. I like the approach to this. It makes movement easier instead of just replacing an HM. Weirdo lets you move faster on land, Sneasler lets you climb cliffs, and Bravier lets you glide over everything. It gives the world more of a Metroidvania feel. You can go back to old areas and find new stuff, which is always cool. The game actually has a post-game too. It definitely ends abruptly though. You get kicked out of the Galaxy team for causing this, making you team up with Immersions to try and fix it. Yeah, you get exiled and you're on the run to try and prove your innocence. This is Mystery Dungeon. After catching Dialga and Palkia, the game just ends. But you and Volo gather up the rest of the Arceus place afterwards, and it's really weird because you just go after all the Sinnoh legendaries rapid fire and catch all of them really easily. Seriously, you get a Pokemon at low HP, paralyze it, and then throw an Ultra Ball and it'll pretty much always catch. It's kind of annoying, but I didn't really mind it. It's so weird to describe. Maybe it's because I didn't get the crafting recipe for Ultra Balls until the ass end in the game. These were a precious resource most of the time. I had to save those for alphas and stuff. Anyway, the Legendary Rush felt weird, but whatever. The only part that sucked was gathering 3 pieces of wood for this cog in a bitch. This doesn't sound hard, but wood is so hilariously rare it took me like an hour to get 3 pieces. Man, if only there was a forest or something that I could cut down with my Pokemon with giant steel pincers for hands. I would be annoyed by wood being so rare, but you never need it except for this and like one side quest. But after you and your buddy Volo get all the plates, you go to Spirit Pillar to summon Arceus and he's like, psych, I'm crazy, I'm gonna use Arceus to recreate the universe or something. So he fights you. With Cynthia's team, more or less. I love this twist. I never expected for a second for him to have any kind of ulterior motives. I just thought it was some kind of historian curiosity or something. But then I realized this dude is so obsessed with Arceus and history that I question how I didn't see this coming. The Volo fight is ridiculous though. You can't win without fainted Pokemon. You just can't. His team is so balanced that he can counter whatever you throw out, and he will just about one-shot you. It's insane. It really shows how different the battle system is now. He knows how to abuse it to take you out before you can even move. Fighting this dude legit feels like some game of 4D chess. I was actually trying to bait him out by setting out the wrong Pokemon and throw him off, which clearly didn't work, but I got desperate. You can't reason with Crazy, you have to outplay him and hope you get lucky. After about 4 tries, I beat this asshole and it felt amazing. For about 30 seconds before he sent out Giratina and killed me instantly. Yeah, after you're exhausted from fighting, this bastard 6 Giratina on you and you don't get to heal. This is the hard part, especially since he loves to use Shadow Force, which also raises your evasion now. But after about half an hour, I finally win. And there was a 3rd phase? Are you kidding me? After throwing yourself at this dude for another 45 minutes and losing every time because of this stupid stat boost of Giratina, you have to admit you lost. Take your stupid plates, you earn them. It took me like 3 days to beat this whole thing, and by the end, my Pokemon were like level 75, 76. They overdid it with this fight. This is the hardest fight in the series. Yeah, even Red. At least there, he's only hard because of the absurd level gap. This dude just knows how to completely demolish you, and then Giratina finishes you off. You either need to be stupidly high level or bring a bunch of items. It's insane. And even after he storms off in his ridiculous new outfit, you're still not done. Before we can fight Arceus, you have to catch one of every Pokemon in the game. Yeah, that's the only thing I haven't done. That's just dumb. Maybe I'll do it at some point, but like, come on. The game actually has some interesting side quests, though. They're mostly fetch quests kind of things, but they're oddly charming. Like this one with 3 guys arguing what Burmy looks like, unaware that there are 3 forms of them, and you show them all 3 forms to show how right all of them are. Or this one guard works the night shift and is wondering how Zubat's seeing the dark so well. And he showed her Zubat and she's like, they don't have eyes? How do they see? And I think there's one where I have to stop a Mr. Mime from placing invisible walls everywhere and terrorizing Jubilife. It's all dumb, pointless garbage, but they use the world so well that it's hard to be upset about them. You can even get Shaman and Darkrai to save data for Sword and Shield and Brilliant Diamond and Shining Pearl. The quests are a bit bare bones, but you can at least obtain them. Shaman's annoying though, mainly because it can run away from you. Yeah, its ground form is still a coward. Manaphy's quest is so damn weird though, but in a cool way that's also annoying. So apparently in BDSP, they added a new book in the Canalave library telling about a legend of how Manaphy would appear. And you actually do that legend to fight and catch Manaphy and Phylon. Again, it's a really cool idea. It's just that you would basically need a guide for it because I would never think to do this even if I had played BDSP. I did have a few issues with the game, but they're luckily pretty minor compared to Sword and Shield. Mainly that the game looks like total ass. The UI looks damn good, and it's easily the best in this series, aside from changing moves being weirdly clunky. But otherwise, this game is an eyesore, straight up. There's low quality textures everywhere, models can be iffy, the environment is hard to look at, and there was a ton of poppin'. Realistically, this might be because it's reusing the Sword and Shield engine, which was a modified version of the Sun and Moon engine, which was a modified version of the X and Y engine. This engine they're using is really holding them back, and I get that game engines have gotten extremely complex and expensive to produce well, but at this point I'd say just ditch what they have now and use Unity or Unreal. We've known since the very beginning that Game Freak does not have very good programmers, and if this is the best their own engine can pull off given the kind of games they're trying to make with it, something's gotta change, and a third-party engine is probably the cheapest way to go about that. Granted, when you're playing it, you don't mind how it looks, which is a good thing, because the gameplay really is that good. But with how many copies these games sell, they have to put more effort into making it look decent. The game just feels cheap because of it. I'm not asking for it to look like Astral Chain or Monster Hunter Rise, just better than what it does now. Yes, I don't mind how it looks when I'm playing it, but I also know they have the resources to make a game that actually looks decent. Both of these statements can be simultaneously true, because the game is so close to looking fine. Improve the textures a bit, reduce the pop-in issues, update the lighting and shading, and there wouldn't be an issue. The art direction is there, but the technical side of it isn't up to snuff. That's all. Otherwise, my only other kind of issue is the lack of breeding and still no voice acting. The breeding thing is annoying just because it makes some Pokemon irritating to get more of. You have to go really out of your way to get first form starters. I'm not too bothered by the continued lack of voice acting, but it just makes a few scenes feel awkward. Characters do emote now, which is good, but voice acting would do a lot to give the characters more personality. Also, you still can't skip cutscenes except the ones without text boxes. Still, it's 2022, come on. A few drops aside, Pokemon Legends Arceus is the most fun I've had with a Pokemon game in years. We all imagine this open-world, exploration-heavy Pokemon game, but we never expected them to actually make it. I figured they could go more in the non-linear direction if they ever want to reinvent the series. Have like 10 to 12 gyms based around themes instead of types that you can do in any order and you only need 8 badges to finish the game. That would have been a great change of pace without making any kind of drastic changes. But this direction is way better. The Breath of the Wild inspiration is brutally obvious, but it works really well with Pokemon. I've never been so excited to see a Pokemon in the corner of my eye and be like, ooh, what's that? I want that. The game isn't perfect, but it's such a breath of fresh air that I would actually be disappointed if they went back to the old style of games. This has been Flame Guy, and this is the Pokemon game I've wanted for years, and I didn't even know it. Now please outsell Sword and Shield so that even the corporate overlords of the Pokemon company understand that people want this. Take care, and I'll see you all in the next mission.